You were once a war god commanding an army of 800,000 elite soldiers, yet overnight, you were defeated by a small nation, causing your entire army to be annihilated. This battle led to your humiliation by thousands of people. Even the emperor you admired most arranged for you to marry the daughter of the enemy general in hopes of achieving peace. You had no choice but to swallow your pride in silence. 5 years ago, you could have won that battle, but unexpectedly, the enemy country called on a powerful being from an 8th grade country to suppress your 9th grade small country. Consequently, you were crippled in that battle and became a useless person. At the brink of death, you saw a fairy in the sky, but the dazzling divine light caused you to lose your sight completely. Now, 5 years later, you find that you can astral project and observe the world. However, every time you see the enemy's warriors bullying people on the streets, you feel helpless. If it wasn't for your defeat in that battle, how could you have allowed the Qing Song country to run wild in the territory of the Xia? Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded in Fang Chen's ear. Fang Chen was slightly startled, turning his head to see a semi-transparent Taoist standing in the void. Also looking at him curiously, Fang Chen was shocked. In the past 5 years, he had never been seen by anyone while astral projecting, let alone spoken to. Fang Chen remained calm, cupping his hands in a bow. I've seen the Taoist friend, how do I address you? The other person called him a Taoist friend, so he called the other person a Taoist friend too. Surely there could be no mistake in that. I am Yunhe, from the Central Continent Kingdom. Are you also traveling and passing through here? Central Continent Kingdom. Fang Chen was shocked. He had heard about the Central Continent Kingdom when he was very young. It was said to be a truly top-tier empire with countless strong individuals and vast territories. However, this was only a legend. He had never seen anyone from the Central Continent Kingdom, and some even claimed that the kingdom did not exist in this world. Wait, your soul seems a bit strange. You are astral projecting, not a nascent soul out of body? Yunhe suddenly exclaimed, and in the next moment, he swung his palm towards Fang Chen. Fang Chen instinctively wanted to dodge, but when he opened his eyes, he found that his soul had returned to his body. An ordinary person. How strange. How can a mere mortal have such a deep and vast soul, and even be capable of astral projection? Yunhe's voice echoed again. Fang Chen calmly bowed towards a certain direction. Senior, I am just a martial artist whose Qi has been destroyed. I am afraid I have disappointed you. Disappointed? Ha ha ha, why would I be disappointed? I was planning to return home after wandering the world for 100 years, but unexpectedly, I found a rough gem like you. It must be fate. Your soul is naturally deep and vast, which makes you a good candidate for cultivation. Yunhe laughed heartily. Now he was a nascent soul out of body. His laughter could only be heard by Fang Chen and would not alert anyone else in the general's mansion. Cultivation. Senior, does immortality truly exist in this world? Fang Chen was momentarily stunned, as the image of a fairy standing under the scorching sun surfaced in his mind. You come from a 9th-rank empire and have never seen a cultivator. It's not surprising. As for whether there are immortals in the world, I don't know. All I know is that to people like you, our abilities are no different from those of immortals. Yunhe smiled. I intend to take you as my last disciple. Are you willing? Fang Chen was silent for a moment. My Qi has been destroyed. I am afraid I cannot start cultivating again. Qi? That's what you martial artists call it. We cultivators don't cultivate Qi. As far as I know, you martial artists have 3 realms, human Xian, Earth Xian, and Sky Xian, each divided into 4 small realms, right? But we cultivators don't have so many terms. We only have Qi refining, foundation building, golden core, and nascent soul. Your Sky Xian can barely compete with the peak of Qi refining. Yunhe proudly declared. Fang Chen was deeply shaken. I have to return to the Central Continent Kingdom to attend to some matters. If you are willing to be my disciple, I will take you to the Central Continent Kingdom. Yunhe urged. Going to the Central Continent Kingdom? Fang Chen's eyes flickered, and he asked in a low voice, Senior. The Great Xia is currently facing unprecedented difficulties. Could you lend a hand? Why should I meddle in mortal affairs? Yunhe laughed. You are about to step onto the path of immortality. It's time for you to let go of these worldly concerns. Fang Chen showed a bitter smile and bowed. I can't leave. Who would clean up the mess he left behind if he left? His father's hair had turned white, his grandfather's life and death were unknown, and even his second uncle had suffered irreparable injuries over the past 5 years due to his efforts for the family and the Great Xia. He needed a wheelchair to move around. You're not willing to leave with me? What does this small place have that's worth your attachment? As long as you follow me, I guarantee that you will advance to the Golden Core stage within 100 years. By then, returning here will be easy. Yunhe was slightly taken aback. My parents are still alive, so I cannot travel far. I need to stay to clean up some messes. I am afraid I have disappointed you. Fong Chen sighed softly. TSK TSK. Yunhee looked at Fong Chen carefully. Everyone in the world admires immortality. If anyone knew that he could become my last disciple, he would crawl to the Central Continent Kingdom even if his legs were broken. But you are not willing to go with me. Our sect has this rule. The last disciple must cultivate within the sect. Since you are not willing to go, I cannot take you as my last disciple. However, it would be a pity to waste your talent. So, I will pass on the entry-level techniques of the 3000 Dao sect to you. From now on, you will be an outer disciple of the 3000 Dao sect of the Central Continent Kingdom. You are allowed to cultivate here. As long as you reach the foundation building stage and return to the sect for registration, it will be okay. Having said that, Yunhee raised his hand and shot out a ray of spiritual light, which entered Fong Chen's forehead. In an instant, Fong Chen felt as if he had gained many memories that were not his own. These memories intertwined and formed a dazzling golden book, 3000 Dao Techniques, entry level. Fong Chen was invigorated and began to read the book, immersing himself in the techniques of cultivation. Unknowingly, the spiritual energy of the world began to converge and pour into his body. This energy circulated through his meridians, nourishing his body. His vitality had been deficient due to years of not practicing martial arts, but under the nourishment of this spiritual energy, his vitality gradually became robust. Soon, the spiritual energy passed through his damaged chi, but it showed no intention of staying there and continued to circulate. The sun set and the moon rose. Fong Chen stood still in the same spot for a day and a night. The servants and maids of the general's mansion whispered among themselves. It was not until Fong Zhixue and others arrived that they quickly shut their mouths. Did Big Brother stand here from yesterday to today? Fong Zhixue exclaimed. Sigh. Perhaps the news of his betrothal upset him. Your big brother is very proud. How could he accept the fact that he is going to marry into the Shao family? A middle-aged man sighed lightly. He was looking at Fong Chen's tall and straight figure with a trace of heartache in his eyes. He was the head of the Fong family, Fong Canghai as a powerful chi master. He should have been ageless. However, he was only in his 40s, and his temples were already graying. Wrinkles were gradually appearing on his face. Father, can't we refuse the emperor? If Big Brother goes to the Green Pine Kingdom, he might live a life worse than a pig or a dog. Fong Zhixue spoke with a trembling voice. The Green Pine Kingdom has been growing stronger over the past 5 years, while our great Xia has been declining day by day. Xiao Longshui proposed for his daughter, asking Chen to marry into the Shao family. If we refuse, he will lead his troops to flatten the capital of Great Xia. This is not a joke, nor is it a bluff. If we refuse, the fall of Great Xia is imminent. If we agree, there might still be a chance to turn things around. We have no choice. Fong Canghai's eyes were slightly red. Aunt, is there really no way? Fong Zhixue asked in a low voice. Your aunt is the queen, but she also has to prioritize the interests of the Great Xia. She understands the situation, and what can she do? Fong Canghai shook his head slightly. Tomorrow, Xiao Longshui's daughter will personally come to the capital with her people. Your big brother needs to show up then. You go and persuade him to go back and rest. Meanwhile, a translucent immortal vein was forming inside Fong Chen's body. In an instant, all the spiritual energy seemed to find its destination and poured into this immortal vein. The 12 levels of chi refining are the process of condensing immortal veins. With the first immortal vein formed, Fong Chen once again stepped into the realm beyond the ordinary. This time, he was not a martial artist, but a cultivator. An immortal vein formed in one day. Ha ha ha, your talent is indeed extraordinary. Remember, come to my 3000 Dao sect for registration after you reach the foundation building stage. Yunhee laughed loudly, took a step forward, and disappeared without a trace. Fong Chen slowly came to his senses, bowed in the direction where Yunhee had disappeared, and felt grateful in his heart. Yunhee's act had changed not only his fate but the destiny of billions of beings in the Great Xia. What's going on with Big Brother? Fong Zhixue was taken aback. Why was Fong Chen bowing towards an empty direction? The servants of the general's mansion couldn't understand either, their faces gradually revealing a strange expression. Chunner. Fong Canghai sighed softly. Dad, why are you all here? Fong Chen turned to look at Fong Canghai. At this moment, everyone seemed to see a glimmer of light flashing in Fong Chen's dead, silent eyes. They thought they had seen it wrong. After all, Fong Chen had been blind for 5 years. You've been standing here for a day and a night. I'm worried. If you have any thoughts in your mind, just tell me. Fong Canghai gritted his teeth. No matter what, I will help you. Dad, do you think I'm worried about marrying into another family? Fong Chen smiled. Aren't you bothered by this matter, standing here for a day and a night? Fong Canghai was slightly stunned. Fong Chen shook his head gently. It's not this matter, I have figured out something. Dad doesn't need to worry about this, I will handle it properly. With that said, Fong Chen bowed. I will take my leave first. Dad, what do you think Big Brother has figured out? Fang Zhishui looked at Fang Chen's retreating figure, a thoughtful expression on her face. Your big brother is precocious, he thinks differently from ordinary people. Maybe he already knows how to deal with the current situation. Fang Canghai's eyes were full of wisdom. His son never acted without reason. If he said he could handle it, he probably could. The only time he was wrong was the battle at Three Realms Mountain 5 years ago, but the common people didn't know. But he knew very well that the battle was out of control because of the intervention of the high-level warriors of the 8th grade empire. What kind of tricks does Chinner have? Does he want to rely on those people? But his cultivation has been wasted. Even if those people were trained by him, they probably don't have the ability to turn the tide in this matter. Fang Canghai fell into thought, and didn't respond even when Fang Zhishui called him several times. Seeing this, Fang Zhishui could only stomp her foot and leave. Fang Chen walked out of the general's mansion. Although his eyes were closed, he walked like a normal person. His perception of his surroundings was very keen, a skill he gained after becoming blind. Or rather, it was a skill he gained when he saw the Sun Maiden. Even if his soul didn't leave his body, his mind could still project everything around him. Fang Junsen is out for a walk again. In the past 5 years, our great Xia has been humiliated by Qing Song, but Fang Junsen occasionally goes out for a walk and drinks tea, as if it has nothing to do with him. Doesn't he feel any shame? 600,000 soldiers buried in the Three Realms Mountain, and he still has the mood to go for a walk and drink tea. I really don't know what to say. When the passers-by saw Fang Chen, they pointed and talked about him, their words filled with reproach and anger. Oh, isn't this our Fang Junsen? No, in a few days, the warriors of our Qing Song will have to call you son-in-law. Suddenly, a few burly men dressed in animal skin coats appeared on the street and blocked Fang Chen's path. The man in the lead looked at Fang Chen with a smirk on his face. Only the warriors of Qing Song like to wear these animal skin coats. The citizens of Great Xia retreated to the side when they saw this, their eyes filled with a hint of hatred, but they didn't dare to show it. What are these Qing Song warriors saying? Call Fang Junsen son-in-law. What's going on? Whispers rose from the crowd. Seeing this, the Qing Song warrior proudly announced, you people still don't know this news? Xiao Wolf has already proposed to your emperor, and soon your Fang Junsen will have to marry into the Xiao family and marry Xiao Shen, the jewel in the palm of the first wolf. Marry Xiao Shen. Boom! The citizens were shocked. They couldn't believe what they were hearing as they looked at Fang Chen. You're talking nonsense. How could Fang Junsen marry into the Xiao family? A scholar suddenly turned red with anger and shouted. You rotten scholar dare to say I'm talking nonsense? You really have the courage of a bear and a leopard. The Qing Song warrior walked straight towards the scholar, grabbed him and slapped him a dozen times, making his head buzz. Fang Chen's expression changed slightly. The people around were angry but didn't dare to speak. After beating the scholar, the Qing Song warrior pointed at Fang Chen. You don't believe it? Ask your military god. See if what I said is true or false. Fang Junsen, tell us they're lying. What makes Xiao family think you would marry into their family? The scholar's face was red and swollen from the beating, blood oozed from the corner of his mouth, but he was staring hard at Fang Chen, as if waiting for something. The Xiao family did indeed propose marriage. Fang Chen said softly. Buzz the scholar, who had been slapped a dozen times and was still trying to stand, seemed to lose all his strength and fell to the ground. The citizens of Great Xia looked lost. If even the former military god was to marry into the Xiao family, what hope was left for Great Xia? Ha, heaven wants to destroy Great Xia. Great Xia must be destroyed. The scholar suddenly laughed wildly, saying words of rebellion, but the people around him were silent and no one tried to stop him. Who says Great Xia is going to be destroyed? Even if heaven wants to destroy Great Xia, doesn't it have to ask me first? Fang Chen said with a faint smile. The scholar's words came to an abrupt halt. He looked at Fang Chen in surprise and doubt, but Fang Chen didn't say anything more. Instead, he asked the Qing Song warrior, what's your name? Heaven has to ask you. How arrogant. My name is He Longsheng. Do you have any orders, son-in-law? The Qing Song warrior chuckled. When I pick up the sword again, the first one I'll cut down will be you. Fang Chen smiled lightly and walked past them. They subconsciously wanted to make a move when they heard his words, but Fang Chen suddenly turned around and looked at them. His gray, dead eyes seemed to hold a certain awe-inspiring authority, and their movements froze. By the time they came back to their senses, Fang Chen had already walked far away. A waste, still talking big. The Qing Song warrior grumbled, but deep down, he was a little scared. Just now, Fang Chen's gaze seemed to be able to see through people's hearts and understand everything. After his walk and tea, Fang Chen arrived at a small courtyard located on the outskirts of the capital. The courtyard seemed to have been left unattended for a long time, dust accumulated everywhere. Fang Chen stood quietly for a while, then suddenly spoke, "You're here. Young master." A pair of excited eyes looked at Fang Chen. Unbeknownst to them, dozens of figures had already appeared in the courtyard. These people were dressed differently, some like street vendors, some in scholars' robes, some in lavish clothes, some in strong clothes with swords at their waists. In Fong Chen's heart, they were the hidden guards of Great Xia, the weapons he had personally forged. Have you all been well these past 5 years? Fong Chen turned around to face the crowd, smiling faintly. In his heart, he was always aware of their experiences over the past 5 years. After all, he often projected his spirit out of his body, and there were no secrets left for him in the capital of Xia. My lord, we have not been well, someone suddenly spoke up. Yes, we have not been well. Every time we heard those people insulting you, we wished we could draw our swords and slay them, but you forbade us. My lord, it's been 5 years since you visited this small courtyard. Are you here today to reinstate us? Someone asked. The crowd's expression suddenly brightened, expectantly looking at Fong Chen. I am now completely devoid of martial arts cultivation. If I were to reinstate you, would you still be willing to follow my command? You should know that any one of you could easily defeat me now, Fong Chen said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. My lord, who would dare? As long as you reinstate us, we will remain the loyal hidden guards of Xia under your command. A robust figure stood out, his tiger-like eyes gazing at the crowd. His breath was extraordinary, clearly at the peak of the second realm of human mystery, the pinnacle of explosive energy. Such cultivation placed him as a top-notch expert in Xia. What Su Ge said is correct. We follow you, not because of your martial arts cultivation. As long as you command us, no matter the danger, we will face it head-on. The crowd lowered their voices, seemingly afraid of being heard by outsiders, but their determination was unyielding. My lord, the daughter of General Xiao Wolf will arrive in the capital tomorrow. If we take action, we have a chance to kill her en route, with casualties controlled within 30%, someone said fiercely. It seems you all have been busy, even knowing this news. Fong Chen's mouth curved slightly upward, but you seem to forget one thing, the hidden guards of Xia are guards, protectors, not assassins. I don't need you to kill for me. The only thing you need to do is to guard Xia. It would be a waste of your talents to be assassins. My lord, what should we do then? Su Ge asked in a low voice. Today, I am here to reinstate you all. What you need to do is simply wait. There is no need for you to take action now. Su Ge, you stay. The rest of you, return to where you came from. Some of you are not in the capital, you can pass on the message for them, Fong Chen said with a light smile. The crowd was slightly taken aback, but their long-standing habit of obeying Fong Chen's orders without question left them no choice but to silently depart, however reluctant they may have felt. My lord, do you have any other orders? Su Ge asked, his voice calm but the excitement on his face was clear. I need a wolf hair brush, superior cinnabar, superior yellow talisman paper. Also, the hidden courtyard is a bit dirty, it needs to be cleaned, Fong Chen said with a smile. Su Ge hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. Please wait a moment, my lord. I will go purchase these items. About half an hour later, Su Ge had bought all the necessary items. While he rolled up his sleeves and began to clean the hidden courtyard, he curiously glanced at Fong Chen. Seeing Fong Chen sitting in the courtyard, busily drawing on yellow paper, he looked increasingly puzzled. Is my lord drawing talisman? But isn't he blind? Never mind, thinking about it gives me a headache. There must be a reason for my lord's actions. Su Ge stopped guessing and focused on cleaning. For him, the reopening of the hidden courtyard was a joyous occasion, and nothing else mattered. Among the 4 types of talismans in the Introductory Guide to 3000 Tao, namely the Vajra Talisman, the Spirit Movement Talisman, the Great Strength Talisman, and the Purple Lightning Talisman. The first 3 are ordinary talismans with general effects, but the 4th, the Purple Lightning Talisman, is a thunder attribute and has an astonishing power, Fong Chen said after sitting quietly for a while. He looked at the preliminary drafts in front of him and felt they were about right. He then began to mobilize the spiritual energy within his body. Drawing a talisman with spiritual energy is what makes it effective. Today's target was the Purple Lightning Talisman. He was just starting on the path of immortality, his cultivation barely beginning, incomparable to his previous self as a martial artist. To reverse the situation and deter the Pine Nation, he needed a thunderous method. He thought that after a few trials, drawing the Purple Lightning Talisman should be a piece of cake. However, as soon as he started to mobilize his spiritual energy, he realized that half of his spiritual energy had been consumed as soon as his brush hit the paper. He then realized drawing talismans consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Fong Chen did not hesitate and decided to complete it in one go, testing if his spiritual energy was sufficient to draw a Purple Lightning Talisman. The result was not only a severe consumption of spiritual energy, but the wolf hair brush infused with spiritual energy also became uncontrollable. When he intended to go one way, it went the other, rendering the talisman paper useless. Drawing talismans is not an easy task, Fong Chen realized. However, he discovered that the spiritual energy he had just consumed was recovering at an extremely fast speed. This was not normal. Could it be because my spirit is more substantial, which makes my spiritual energy recovery speed different from ordinary people? Fong Chen seemed to understand something. He laughed and continued to focus on drawing the purple lightning talisman that he spent the entire day drawing. By the time the sky had darkened, there were hundreds of failed talisman papers on the table. But this was no hindrance to Fong Chen, as he was blind anyway. Su Gu, who had cleaned the hidden courtyard, was standing silently in the shadows of the courtyard, watching over Fong Chen. When will my lord stop drawing? General Xiao Wolf's daughter will arrive in the capital tomorrow. Su Gu was secretly anxious. It's about time. This one should be successful. Fong Chen picked up a new talisman paper. After hundreds of failed attempts, he gradually grasped the technique of drawing the purple lightning talisman. Luckily, his spiritual energy could recover quickly. In one day, his spiritual energy depleted countless times, but each time it recovered to its peak at a visible speed. Not only that, but he also found that each time his spiritual energy depleted, the peak level of his spiritual energy increased slightly. In just one day, his spiritual energy had increased by 2 to 3%. Perhaps in no time, he would have enough to condense the second immortal vein and advance to the second level of qi refining. Fong Chen, although blind, was focused and precise in his drawing. The wolf hair brush, infused with spiritual energy, moved like a dragon or a snake on the yellow talisman paper. Each stroke was filled with a strong aura of immortality. Time passed by the second. Finally, he completed the drawing of a purple lightning talisman without any mistakes. As the last stroke was completed, a surge of thunder attribute spiritual energy from the world around him rushed towards him, entering the purple lightning talisman. In the dark courtyard, it seemed as if a flash of lightning had blinked in and out of existence. Was that a thunderclap just now? Or are my eyes playing tricks on me? Su Gu suddenly straightened up, rubbing his eyes subconsciously. The courtyard was extremely quiet, with only the figure sitting straight as an arrow visible, but he had clearly seen a flash of lightning. Was it just an illusion? The thunder spiritual energy is so strong. This purple lightning talisman must be successful. Fong Chen's expressionless face finally revealed a hint of a smile. In half an hour, he could draw a purple lightning talisman. There were still 4 to 5 hours until dawn, and he could draw at least 8 or 9 purple lightning talismans. Fong Chen was yet to realize that the seemingly simple purple lightning talisman, which he now considered an easy task, was an extremely difficult hurdle for the average qi refining cultivator. The purple lightning talisman was too complex, and even the slightest error would result in a total loss of previous efforts. Additionally, the greatest challenge was the loss of spiritual energy. An ordinary qi refining cultivator might be drained of spiritual energy after a few failures, requiring several days to recover to their peak state. To accumulate hundreds of experiences, it might take several months, and some people might not be able to draw a complete purple lightning talisman even after thousands of attempts. If Daoist Yun he were present, he would undoubtedly be astonished by the scene before him. In front of Fong Chen, there were already 9 purple lightning talismans, and he was still drawing the 10th one. He seemed oblivious to fatigue. His spiritual energy was increasing rather than decreasing. The only thing he lacked was time. Su Gu had already understood that he wasn't hallucinating because every time Fong Chen drew a purple lightning talisman, he could see a flash of lightning. Are there really such things as talismans in this world? I thought they were all tricks used by swindlers. The young master is indeed the young master. He has never truly given up in these 5 years. Su Gu was exhilarated when the 10th purple lightning talisman was completed. The phenomenon of thunder and lightning appeared again. Only after the thunder spirit energy had entered the talisman paper did Fong Chen put away the 10 talisman papers in front of him. Su Gu, you have already reached the peak of qi explosion. Your reputation is gradually emerging in the capital, and many people know about you. Have you ever thought about not being a Daxia shadow guard anymore? Fong Chen looked at Su Gu and smiled. Su Gu was flustered, his burly eyes instantly turned red. Young master, did I do something wrong that you want to send me away? When did I say I wanted to send you away? Fong Chen laughed. Su Gu breathed a sigh of relief and quickly asked, then why did you say that? I am a Daxia shadow guard today, and I will be a Daxia shadow guard for the rest of my life. 5 years ago, the soldiers around me died one by one. I need someone to stand by my side, to stand in the limelight and help me solve some problems. In this way, it would be impossible to remain hidden. Fong Chen said with a faint smile, the reason why the Daxia shadow guards have the word shadow in their name is that nobody knows about their existence. The emperor doesn't know, the people of Daxia don't know, and even the kingdom of Qing Song doesn't know. Apart from Fong Chen, only his father Fong Songhai knew some hidden facts, but it was just the tip of the iceberg. The Daxia shadow guards each have their own duties, and nobody knows about their relationship with Fong Chen. In the eyes of outsiders, they and Fong Chen are strangers to each other. If Su Gu were to stand in the limelight, he naturally wouldn't be able to remain a Daxia shadow guard. In this way, can I follow the young master day and night? Su Gu was shocked. Fong Chen nodded with a smile. I am willing, I am willing. Su Gu said excitedly. The sun is about to rise, let's go back to the general's mansion. Fong Chen walked towards the outside of the hidden courtyard. Su Gu quickly followed and casually asked, "Young master, how do you know that the sun is about to rise?" "Can your eyes? I still can't see anything, but there are many things in this world that don't need to be seen with eyes." Fong Chen said with a smile. Su Gu seemed to understand but not really, and finally said, "Only you, young master, could do this. If I were blind, I would definitely not be able to walk properly." In his heart, the young master was invincible in the world and was the goal he would pursue for the rest of his life. When the two of them left the hidden courtyard, a special team arrived at the gate of Dacia's capital city. This team had more than 100 people, each riding a giant wolf as tall as an adult man's shoulder. These giant wolves had silver fur and were extraordinarily majestic. On their backs were a group of warriors surrounded by intense killing intent. These warriors moved in unison, expressionless, but occasionally, a trace of contempt could be seen in their eyes. Even though it was early morning and the city gate was already open, the soldiers of Dacia had already arrived at their posts, and the citizens of Dacia were coming in and out in a constant stream. When they saw this team, their faces changed dramatically, showing fear. Some people even got scared and ran away. This team was the Wolf Army, which had fought countless battles with the Dacia kingdom in the past. Their commander was Xiao Wolf, the commander of the Xiao family, who was known as the first wolf commander and the strongest man in the kingdom of Qing Song. "Zhao's goddess has arrived. We welcome Zhao's goddess." Some warriors from the kingdom of Qing Song came to hear the news. When they saw this team, they all showed excited and happy faces, and they kept bowing. Seeing these warriors from the kingdom of Qing Song, who were domineering in the capital of Dacia, being so respectful to this team, the faces of the citizens of Dacia became even more complex and fearful. In the middle of this group of wolf army, there was a silver wolf that was even larger and more majestic. On its back sat a young girl who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old. Her eyes were lively, and her bronze skin reflected a dazzling glow under the rising sunday. If you look closely, you can see that this girl has long legs and a naturally delicate face. She looked at the capital city of Dacia in front of her, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. This girl was indeed the daughter of Xiao Wolf, Zhao's goddess, who had been crowned as a goddess since her birth. Just then, a team wearing Dacia's military uniform arrived outside the city. The leading general saw this wolf army and his face changed slightly. He then looked at Zhao's goddess and saluted. "I am Yu Longchang, the deputy general of the Western Tiger Camp, and I am here to welcome Miss Xiao by the emperor's order." "You should have been waiting here early," Zhao's goddess said indifferently. "I apologize for being late. Please forgive me, Miss Xiao." Yu Longchang's face changed slightly, and he explained in a low voice, suppressing his anger. "Give him 2 slaps." Zhao's goddess said lightly. Boom! Figure in the wolf army shot into the sky and arrived in front of Yu Longchang in an instant. He slapped him twice on the face and then flew back. The whole process was as smooth as flowing water, and Yu Longchang had no time to react. "Now I can forgive you." Zhao's goddess smiled. The surroundings were quiet, and Yu Longchang's face was red, his eyes full of humiliation. His soldiers were even more angry and shaking all over. This group of Qing Song Kingdom's wolf army dared to openly beat the deputy general of the Western Tiger Camp. "Sir!" A soldier from the Western Tiger Camp couldn't bear it and put his hand on the hilt of his waist. "Do not act rashly. The person who just acted is at least a strong man in the early stage of controlling qi. And Zhao's goddess is also a distinguished guest mentioned by the emperor. If you offend her in any way, you might be beheaded." Yu Longchang said in a low voice. Then he looked at Zhao's goddess and saluted. "Since Miss Xiao has forgiven me, I won't say much. The emperor is already waiting in the palace. Please, Miss Xiao, remember to send someone to General Fong's mansion to inform him. Today, I want to see Fong Chen, the military god, in your palace. After all, this time, I am prepared to marry him in a grand palanquin." Zhao's goddess smiled. "Please rest assured, Miss Xiao, someone has already gone to General Fong's mansion to deliver the message. You will see Fong Chen in the palace." Yu Longchang said in a deep voice. "That's good, lead the way," Zhao's goddess said with a smile. General Fong's mansion. General Fong Canghai was seated in the main seat. A middle-aged beautiful woman sat on his left, and on his right was a middle-aged man who bore a striking resemblance to Fong Canghai. This man was seated in a wooden wheelchair, with a fox fur blanket draped over his knees. "Brother, sister-in-law, I heard that the divine maiden of the Xiao family has arrived in the capital. Have you really decided to have Chen become a son-in-law to the Xiao family?" The middle-aged man asked lightly. "Little brother, I know you blame your elder brother and I feel sorry for Chen too. But considering the current situation, our Fong family has no other choice." The middle-aged beautiful woman sighed softly. "The army of the Qingsong kingdom is 100,000 strong. There are no more forces in the Great Xia that can resist them. After the battle 5 years ago, the Great Xia has been dwindling, while the Qingsong kingdom has been growing stronger. If General Xiao decides to attack, I fear the Great Xia won't last a year." The middle-aged man murmured to himself with a self-deprecating laugh. won't last a year, huh? Just then, Fang Zhishui walked in and whispered, "Father, mother, uncle, my elder brother has not returned since he left the house yesterday. Could it be that elder brother has already left? Given your elder brother's temperament, even if General Shao himself came, he would want to meet him face to face. He wouldn't fear the daughter of General Shao, would he?" The middle-aged man said with a faint smile. Chen might be wanting to take care of some mundane affairs before he leaves the Great Xia. True, Fang Canghai and his wife nodded slightly. They knew their son very well. Sometimes, they even hoped that Fang Chen would just disappear without a trace, with no one able to find him. As for the consequences, they did not want to think about or deal with them. Unfortunately, given Fang Chen's personality, such a thing would not happen. "Master, someone from the palace is here," a servant rushed in to report outside the door of the general's mansion. A team from the palace stood silently. The person leading them was a eunuch dressed in brocade, standing straight and holding a golden imperial edict in both hands. As soon as Fang Canghai arrived at the door with his people and saw the eunuch, he immediately bowed and said, "This humble servant, Fang Canghai, pays his respects and welcomes the imperial edict." The eunuch's gaze was cold as he scanned the faces of the Fang family members one by one. Suddenly, he frowned. Where is the heir of the Fang family? This imperial edict is for him. Does he dare not come out to receive it? Fang Canghai's expression changed slightly, and he forced a smile. "Eunuch, Chen is not in the mansion at the moment. I can receive the imperial edict on his behalf." When had the eunuch, a trusted aide of the emperor, ever been so humble and careful in front of him? But in the past 5 years, due to the battle at the Three Realms Mountain, the emperor not only neglected the Fang family, he even neglected the empress. Even a eunuch dared to show him a cold face and humiliate him now. This was not the first or second time, but the Fang family had been silently bearing it all. What a joke, you received the imperial edict for the heir of the Fang family. Is that appropriate? I want to see the heir of the Fang family right now. Please don't play any tricks, General Fang, eunuch sneered, his voice high and sharp. The expressions of the Fang family members gradually turned ugly. More and more passers-by gathered around, whispering and pointing. The divine maiden of the Qingsong kingdom has arrived at the palace, General Fang. You'd better not have any wild thoughts and call the heir of the Fang family out, eunuch snorted coldly. Brother, I'll send someone to find Chen, the middle-aged man in the wheelchair slowly said. Before Fang Canghai could respond, someone had already seen Fang Chen walking over from a distance with Su Ge. The military god of the Fang family is here. I didn't expect him to have the leisure to wander outside today. Eunuch looked up and saw Fang Chen. Their eyes met and for some reason, eunuch felt a chill run down his spine. But then he laughed disdainfully. The heir of the Fang family in front of him was no longer the military god of the Fang family who could slap a royal relative in the face at the gate of the palace. Why should he be afraid? Father, mother, uncle, Fang Chen came to them and accurately bowed to the three, making the bystanders wonder if Fang Chen was really blind. You're back. Fang Canghai sighed softly. Ah, heir of the Fang family, we thought you were too scared to receive this imperial edict. Eunuch looked at Fang Chen with a smile that was not quite a smile, his voice filled with sarcasm. Slap. Fang Chen's slap landed on Eunuch's face, making a clear sound. Eunuch's hat was even knocked off by the slap. The surrounding area was quiet, so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. All the astonished eyes were on Fang Chen. Even Fang Canghai and the others did not expect Fang Chen to suddenly slap Eunuch. The little eunuchs and palace guards who came with Eunuch instinctively wanted to do something. But when they saw Fang Chen's gray eyes sweep over them one by one, they froze. At this moment, they suddenly remembered the once invincible military god of the Fang family. There were countless people who had been slapped by him in the capital of the Great Xia. There were sons of generals, sons of ministers, royal relatives, and even princes of the palace. You dare to slap me? Eunuch covered his face turning red with shame and his eyes filled with disbelief and anger. This waste in front of him dared to hit him. And he dared to hit him in front of so many people? I have received the imperial edict. You can leave now. Fang Chen took the imperial edict from his hand and waved him away as if shooing away a fly. Rebellion, rebellion. Eunuch was furious and immediately yelled at his men, arrest him for me. His roar echoed through the world but no one around him moved. His men looked at each other, none daring to move. Su Ge looked at Eunuch with a smile that was not quite a smile. Over the past 5 years, while there were people who had insulted the young master behind his back, none of them dared to do it to his face. Even the warriors of the Qingsong kingdom who insulted him openly, they didn't have the guts to do it. Even if he is ill, he is still a tiger, still a lord. Slap. Fang Chen raised his hand and slapped him again. This slap made Eunuch stagger backwards, and he was quickly caught by the little eunuch behind him. You. Eunuch pointed at Fang Chen, his body shaking violently, as if he was about to die of anger on the spot. So what if the common people insult me? They work in the fields and weave silk. So what if the warriors insult me? They fight on the battlefield. Thanks to them, we have the prosperity of the Great Xia. But what about you? You're just a eunuch. Apart from scheming in the palace, have you ever contributed anything to the great Xia? What right do you have to point fingers at me? I call you eunuch out of respect for the emperor. Otherwise, you're not even worthy of a title in front of me, Fang Chen said indifferently. The onlooker's eyes changed instantly. Eunuch Yu was so angry that blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. Seeing this, the little eunuch knew that they couldn't stay here any longer. Without further ado, he quickly dragged Eunuch Yu away from the scene. Military god Fang, even though you were defeated 5 years ago and lost all your cultivation, you are still alive. As long as you live, you are worth 10,000 warriors. A warrior in the crowd shouted. Fang Chen remained silent, holding the imperial edict and turning to enter the general's mansion. The people watched his retreating figure, their eyes seeming to anticipate something. Though the hope was slim, they seemed to see a glimmer of light today. Dust, what are your plans this time? In the front hall of the general's mansion, Fang Canghai, after reading the imperial edict, sighed lightly, his gaze falling on Fang Chen. Dad, I'll take it one step at a time. Fang Chen responded with a smile. Take it one step at a time. The crowd looked somewhat disheartened. Indeed, Fang Chen had lost his cultivation now. Even if he had thousands of strategies in his heart, he could hardly implement them. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the wheelchair suddenly turned to Su Gu, frowning slightly. Are you Su Gu, the sword of wind and cloud? Uncle, just call me Su Gu. I don't dare to take the title of the sword of wind and cloud. Su Gu grinned. The people like Fang Canghai were a bit surprised, especially Fang Zhixue, who stepped forward to Su Gu and examined him carefully, exclaiming, So you are Su Gu, the sword of wind and cloud. How do you know my big brother? The sword of wind and cloud, Su Gu, had a mysterious background. Since he arrived in the capital 5 years ago, he had demonstrated his extraordinary swordsmanship, and his cultivation had advanced from the initial stage of Qi explosion to the peak of Qi explosion. This level of warrior was now rare in the Great Summer. After all, in the Battle of the Three Realms Mountain, countless warriors died. Those with Qi explosion and strong Qi fell one after another, shaking the foundation of the Great Summer. Now in the capital of the Great Summer, there are less than 100 Qi explosion warriors, among which only a dozen or so have reached the peak of Qi explosion. The number of Qi explosion peak warriors in the Qing Song country is at least 20 to 30 times that of the Great Summer, showing the gap. I have long admired the military god and have taken the liberty to recommend myself this time, willing to follow the military god as a small guard. Su Gu said with a fist. Fang Canghai's eyes moved slightly, he seemed to understand something, nodded slightly, and his gaze softened when he looked at Su Gu. From now on, when dust goes to the Qing Song country, I will have to trouble you. The crowd perked up at his words that if a Qi explosion peak warrior was to guard Fang Chen, he might be spared many humilities when he went to the Qing Song country. Fang Zhixue quickly said, Big brother Su, thank you in advance. It's no trouble at all. Su Gu quickly responded. Dust, do you want your second uncle to accompany you to the palace? The middle-aged man in the wheelchair spoke slowly. The daughter of the wolf commander is bound to humiliate our Fang family this time. If my second uncle goes, wouldn't it just fulfill her wish? Fang Chen smiled lightly, I can go alone. With that, Fang Chen gave Su Gu a look, then picked up the imperial edict and walked towards the door. Su Gu remembered Fang Chen's instruction. If Fang Chen couldn't leave the palace today, he would have to cover for the Fang family to leave the capital of the Great Summer. However, Fang Chen had said that the probability of this happening was very small and it was just a precaution. In front of the Taiha Hall in the palace, hundreds of wolf soldiers stood solemnly, their eyes occasionally meeting with the surrounding guards, revealing a faint mockery. No matter how angry the guards were, they dared not say anything at this moment. There was a time when these wolf soldiers were not allowed to enter the capital, let alone enter the palace as they did today. This meant that the Great Summer had become extremely weak in front of the Qing Song country. Take me to see the emperor quickly. The voice of Eunuch Yu rang out. His face was covered in blood, and he was quickly rushed towards the Taiha Hall by several eunuchs. The guards around were stunned when they saw this. Wasn't Eunuch Yu supposed to go to the Fang family to read the imperial edict? How did he get beaten up like this? Father, what happened to you? The deputy commander of the West Tiger camp, Yu Longchang, suddenly appeared, looking at Eunuch Yu in astonishment. Fang Chen has gone too far. Eunuch Yu said sternly, then quickly entered the Taiha Hall without saying much to Yu Longchang. Fang Chen. Yu Longchang was slightly surprised. Fang Chen had been low-key for the past 5 years. This time, he actually hit Eunuch Yu who was reading the imperial edict. This reminded him of a special period many years ago when even the emperor's prestige could not compete with Fang Chen. He's a waste now, but he's still so arrogant. He must not forget his past glory. Yu Longchang sneered in his heart upon hearing the name Fang Chen. The 100 wolf soldiers instinctively looked up slightly, glanced at each other, and the contempt in their eyes had long since disappeared. Regardless, the military god of the Great Summer, Fang Chen, held a certain status in their minds. The wolf army had clashed with the army led by Fong Chen countless times. Every time, they did not get the upper hand, and countless wolf soldiers died at the hands of Fong Chen. They were all later-comers. Inside the Taiha Hall, most of the civil and military officials were present. The Emperor of the Great Summer, dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe, was sitting on the dragon chair, talking with the girl from the Xiao family below. The conversation was about Fong Chen's marriage to the Xiao family, as well as the promise from the Qing Song country that they would not attack the Great Summer for the next 5 years. Eunuch Yu entered the Taiha Hall at this time, knelt on the ground without getting up, and let out a mournful wail. "Your Majesty, the old slave was unsuccessful in announcing the edict and was beaten by Fong Chen. Please punish him." "What? He was beaten by Fong Chen?" The civil and military officials all looked at Eunuch Yu with a strange expression on their faces. It seemed that Fong Chen hadn't hit anyone for 5 years. Some officials instinctively touched their cheeks. The girl from the Xiao family frowned and looked at the emperor. The emperor was also a bit surprised at this moment, and looked at Eunuch Yu with a gloomy expression. "You were beaten by Fong Chen? What about the edict? Did he accept it?" "Your Majesty, he did accept it, but..." Eunuch Yu wanted to argue, but the emperor waved his hand. "As long as he accepted it, it's fine. As for him hitting you, you must have said something to anger him. In this Taiha Hall, not only you have been hit by him, there's no need to make a big deal out of it." Eunuch Yu was stunned. Some officials sneered. Now the Great Summer needed Fong Chen to marry into the Xiao family to quell the war and extend the country's fortune for another 5 years. Did this mere eunuch think he could take advantage of the situation to deal with Fong Chen? "Emperor, it seems that the military god is quite dissatisfied with marrying into the Xiao family, isn't he? Will he ignore your edict? How about I send my wolf soldiers to bring him here?" The girl from the Xiao family said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. The expressions of the civil and military officials changed slightly, and a hint of tension appeared in their eyes. If the wolf soldiers really went to capture Fong Chen, once the news spread throughout the capital, it would be a slap in the face for the Great Summer. "Miss Xiao, don't worry. Fong Chen is also my nephew. Since he has accepted the edict, he will not fail to come," the emperor said, looking at the emotionless queen next to him, then smiled at the girl from the Xiao family. "Just wait patiently for a while." Just then, the voice of Yu Longchang came from outside the door. "The son of the Fong general's mansion, Fong Chen, has arrived." The emperor smiled. "See, isn't he here?" The girl from the Xiao family narrowed her eyes slightly, suddenly said to the outside of the door, "The military god wants to marry into the Xiao family, but he also needs to go through some tests." From the emperor to the civil and military officials, everyone's faces changed slightly at her words. "If he fails the test, let's not mention the marriage anymore. The Qing Song country will soon flatten the Great Summer and make this place a vassal state of the Qing Song country." The girl from the Xiao family laughed lightly outside the Taiha Hall. Upon hearing the girl from the Xiao family's words, the wolf soldiers immediately formed a formation and looked solemnly at Fong Chen, who was walking towards. With his eyes closed, Fong Chen slowly walked towards the Taiha Hall. He seemed oblivious to the hundreds of wolf soldiers staring at him intently. "He's really blind," a wolf soldier murmured quietly, looking at the once vibrant young war god, now a blind and helpless man. The wolf soldiers felt a pang of regret. However, their admiration and respect for their first wolf commander was even greater. What's so special about a young war god? He still fell at the hands of the first wolf commander, their invincible leader. At the same time, the emperor, the goddess Xiao, and all the officials arrived at the entrance of the Taiha Hall. The usually expressionless empress showed a trace of heartache in her eyes when she saw the somewhat thin figure. She wanted to say something but stopped herself. "He looks just like the portrait, but he lacks the sharpness he once had." The goddess Xiao observed Fong Chen, then a faint smile appeared on her face. "There's nothing special about him, but he is more handsome than the men I used to know." A flash of anger crossed the empress's eyes. All the officials looked angrily at the goddess Xiao. Regardless of their previous disagreements with Fong Chen, comparing the once young war god of Daxia with her frivolous men was an insult to Daxia. "Your Majesty, tell him that if he wants to marry into our Xiao family, he must pass some tests. I don't want to bring back a useless blind man," the goddess Xiao said with a light smile. The emperor of Daxia looked at Fong Chen and slowly said, "Fong Chen." "Fong Chen greets your Majesty." Fong Chen stopped, bowed his fist in salute to where the emperor was. "How dare you, Fong Chen, not kneel when you see his Majesty?" Yu Longchang suddenly shouted. Everyone guessed that he was venting his anger for his godfather, Yu Gonggong. With his eyes closed, Fong Chen slowly turned his head towards where Yu Longchang was. "Yu Longchang, the deputy commander of the West Tiger Camp?" Yu Longchang was slightly taken aback. Was he really blind? He had not had any interaction with him in the past 5 years. How could he recognize him at once? "It's me," Yu Longchang replied in a deep voice. "Didn't His Majesty grant me the privilege of not kneeling when I see him? Have you forgotten?" Fong Chen said with a faint smile. Yu Longchang was slightly stunned, subconsciously saying, that was before you were defeated. After your defeat, he couldn't continue. It seemed, the emperor never took back the privilege he had given to Fang Chen, even after his defeat. They just wished that Fang Chen was no longer the young war god he once was, and had lost all his glory and power. It seems you remember. Fang Chen smiled, then looked at the Emperor of Daxia. Your Majesty, I rushed to the palace as soon as I received the imperial decree. I wonder if the daughter of Xiao Wolf Commander is here. The Emperor of Daxia glanced at the goddess Xiao, then said to Fang Chen, Miss Xiao is next to me. She said that you need to pass some of her tests to marry into the Xiao family. The faces of all the officials were somewhat ugly. It was already a humiliation for Daxia to have Fang Chen marry into the Xiao family. Now with the goddess Xiao's antics, it was like a double humiliation, forcing Daxia to rush to let Fang Chen marry into the Xiao family. Test? I wonder what kind of test it is. Fang Chen said with a faint smile. Miss Xiao, what do you think? The Emperor of Daxia looked at the goddess Xiao. It's very simple, Fang War God, as long as you can guess the movements of my wolf soldiers next, you will pass the test. The goddess Xiao said slowly, and gave a look to the leader of the wolf soldiers. Seeing this, the wolf soldier leader immediately drove the silver wolves like a whirlwind, rushing towards the surrounding guards, maids, and eunuchs. Bang! 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 More than 10 guards, maids, and eunuchs were thrown in front of Fang Chen. They looked a little surprised and confused, not knowing why they were involved in this test. The Emperor of Daxia watched as the wolf soldiers actually made a move in the palace. His face twitched a few times. How dare you make a move in the palace? How dare you make a move in front of His Majesty? An old minister with white hair and beard stepped forward, staring fiercely at the goddess Xiao. This old man was the Prime Minister of Daxia, Li Guizhu. It's just for the test. The Emperor won't mind, right? The goddess Xiao said with a faint smile. Hee, the Emperor of Daxia laughed. I don't know what kind of test requires them. If Miss Xiao has something to say, just say it. There's no need for your men to make a move and cause misunderstandings. After saying that, he waved at Li Guizhu, signaling him to step back. Li Guizhu frowned, but said nothing. It's very simple. The goddess Xiao looked at Fang Chen. Fang War God, there are 4 guards, 4 maids, and 4 eunuchs in front of you. Next, will my men kill the guards, the maids, or the eunuchs? As long as you guess correctly, you will pass the test. There was an uproar among the people. Someone finally couldn't help but shout angrily, you're treating the lives of our Daxia people as a joke. At this moment, the leader of the wolf soldiers had already taken out his strong bow and was slowly aiming at Fang Chen. But after a moment, he aimed at the guards, maids, and eunuchs. As long as we, the Qing Song Kingdom, are willing, the lives of your Daxia people are as cheap as grass. Don't ruin today's event for the sake of 1 or 2 lives. Emperor, don't you think I'm right? The goddess Xiao said indifferently. Your Majesty, if we let the people of the Qing Song Kingdom kill in the palace, how will the people of the world view us? The Empress finally spoke. The Emperor of Daxia was silent for a few moments, ignoring the Empress, and looked at Fang Chen. Fang Chen, do as Miss Xiao said. The faces of the people changed again and again. The guards, maids, and eunuchs all showed fear. They never thought that they would be slaughtered by the people of the Qing Song Kingdom in the palace. Clap. 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 Fang Chen clapped lightly. I finally understand why Xiao Wolf Commander let me go alive. The goddess Xiao squinted her eyes slightly. She remembered her father's instructions before he left. Fang Chen has been despised and insulted in Daxia for the past 5 years. If he can be won over this time, even if he can't practice martial arts, he can still contribute to the Qing Song Kingdom's promotion to an 8th-grade empire. This is also the reason why her father spared his life. Whether it succeeds or not depends on whether he will make a choice during the test. If he insists on doing his best for Daxia, kill him on the spot. Otherwise, take him back to the Qing Song Kingdom, and don't neglect and humiliate him on the way, because he has seen through her father's thoughts. Fang War God, it's time for you to make a choice. Who will die, the guards, or the maids? Or these little eunuchs? The goddess Xiao said with a faint smile. The faces of all the officials were solemn and serious. Li Guizhu looked at Fang Chen, then at the Emperor of Daxia, and finally sighed softly without saying a word. Even if they understood the intentions of the Qing Song Kingdom, so what? The Daxia of today has no ability to prevent all this from happening. Right now, the Qing Song Kingdom is forcing Fang Chen to kill Daxia's subjects. The purpose is to make Fang Chen unwelcome in Daxia and completely lose his position as a war god. What if I say that none of them will die? Fang Chen said softly. The Emperor of Daxia's expression changed slightly. Li Guizhu and others showed surprise. By rights, Fang Chen should understand the pros and cons. With the current situation, he can only choose to go along with the Qing Song Kingdom and extend Daxia's national fortune for another 5 years. You have disappointed your father. Xiao Shen's eyes turned cold, glancing at the wolf army leader. Upon seeing this, the leader, who possessed a powerful bow and the ability to control qi, immediately aimed at Fang Chen. However, in the next moment, Fang Chen waved his hand, and a purple lightning talisman was activated by his spiritual energy. The terrifying lightning flashed across everyone's eyes, and with a loud bang, the wolf army leader instantly turned into a pile of charred ashes. Not only that, several wolf soldiers near him were also affected, being blasted into ashes by the purple lightning talisman. A Qi master was killed, along with several explosive Qi experts, and even their silver wolf mounts did not escape. This scene completely stunned everyone present. What kind of terrifying power was this? Wasn't it said that Fang Chen's cultivation had been abolished, that he had become a disabled person? Why did he still have such terrifying means, that even a Qi master couldn't withstand a single blow? Impossible, Yu Longchang muttered to himself, looking at Fang Chen with fear in his eyes. Fang Jun's cultivation has not been abolished. An official exclaimed in shock. Following this, a glimmer of hope appeared in the eyes of countless gloomy officials. They excitedly looked at each other, their shoulders trembling uncontrollably. Li Guizhu's body trembled and he stared at Fang Chen for a few moments, with a tear suddenly slipping from his eyes. He murmured, "The fate of the Great Xia has been saved." The Emperor of Great Xia stared fixedly at Fang Chen, his face changing. The Empress covered her mouth, her eyes red with excitement. "Your cultivation," Xiao Shen's face turned pale. "You've disappointed your father, my cultivation hasn't been abolished." Fang Chen slowly opened his eyes, his gray pupils looking at Xiao Shen. "Although I can't see with these eyes, leading troops to kill the enemy is still not a problem. You've been patient for 5 years. What?" Xiao Shen found it hard to believe. After a pause, she shouted, "Kill him." Part of the wolf army immediately aimed their bows, while the others drove their silver wolves towards Fang Chen. Their killing intent could no longer be concealed, and in an instant, a strong killing intent filled the surroundings. Again, several flashes of lightning flickered. The wolf army charging towards Fang Chen turned into ashes. The wolf army who had aimed their bows gradually showed fear in their eyes, their arms trembling slightly. "Xiao Shen, your father didn't kill me back then, and today I won't kill you. Take your men and leave." Fang Chen said indifferently. He had already used 5 of the purple lightning talismans, and the remaining 5 probably wouldn't be enough to kill all these wolf soldiers. If the other party insisted on fighting to the death, he would have played all his cards. However, the probability of that happening was not high. Xiao Shen's face changed several times, and finally, she gritted her teeth and said to her men, "Let's go." She led the wolf army quickly towards the palace exit. Seeing this, the Emperor of Great Xia was silent for a few moments before saying to Yu Longchang, "General Yu, please escort Miss Xiao." Yu Longchang quickly nodded and followed with his men. "Thank you, General Fang, for saving our lives." The few guards, maids, and eunuchs knelt on the ground, thanking Fang Chen with their heads bowed, their faces filled with excitement. "Fang Chen, come to the imperial study." The Emperor of Great Xia left a sentence and then turned to leave. The court officials looked at each other. They didn't expect the events of the day to end like this. However, the news of Fang Chen's cultivation still being intact was indeed uplifting. Seeing this, the Empress quickly ran to Fang Chen. "Chen'er, has your cultivation really recovered?" "Aunt, it's a long story. How have you been in the palace these years? I haven't seen you coming to visit." Fang Chen smiled. The Empress's eyes dimmed, and she nodded lightly. "Everything's fine, I've been too busy to get away, so I haven't been able to visit." With that, her face brightened, and a smile appeared on her face. "Now that I know your cultivation has recovered, I'm very relieved. After you finish in the imperial study, I'll tell the emperor and return to the Fang family with you." "Okay." Fang Chen nodded slightly. "Lord Fang, please come in." The previously arrogant eunuch was now humble and respectful, opening the imperial study with a bow, waiting for Fang Chen to enter. Fang Chen glanced at him and entered the imperial study. Only then did eunuch gently close the door, then heaved a long sigh of relief, wiping his forehead, his face covered in cold sweat. Inside the imperial study, the Emperor of Great Xia sat quietly, his gaze fixed on Fang Chen. Fang Chen also remained silent, and the two sat quietly in the imperial study. After about a dozen moments, the Emperor of Great Xia suddenly spoke. "Fang Chen, when did your cultivation recover? The technique you used just now doesn't seem like your Fang family's ancestral Xian Tianju. Last year, I met a Taoist who taught me some methods to take care of my body. I thought it was just an ordinary health preservation technique, but I didn't expect it to restore my cultivation and also learn a special martial art called the Purple Lightning Palm." Fang Chen saluted, mixing truth with falsehood in his response. "A Taoist? Where is he now?" The Emperor of Great Xia suddenly stood up, his expression somewhat excited. "I only met him once, he should be wandering around." Fang Chen replied. What a pity, what a pity. If you see that Taoist again, remember to introduce him to me. I have always been interested in Taoist arts." The Emperor of Great Xia said. He paused. "This time, Qing Song country forced me to let you marry into the Shao family. For the sake of the fate of Great Xia, I had no choice but to agree. Now it's good, your cultivation has recovered, and Xiao Wolf Shuai will certainly be wary, and will not dare to dispute with us Great Xia in a short time. He looked at Fang Chen, his eyes flickering. You won't blame me, will you? How could I not understand your majesty's good intentions? It's all for the billions of people of Great Xia. If I hadn't recovered my cultivation, I would have gone to Qing Song country with Xiaoshen today. Fang Chen saluted. Good that you understand, good that you understand. However, your cultivation has just recovered, you definitely need to rest for a while. Don't wander around in the future, stay in the Fang family and rest well. The Emperor of Great Xia said. I will follow your majesty's decree. Fang Chen nodded readily. The Emperor of Great Xia, who had been observing his expression, suddenly smiled. All right, you can go now. Fang Chen left the imperial study, and Eunuch Yu courteously led him away. Halfway, they saw a pair of people coming from the opposite direction. The man in the lead had a handsome face and wore a purple robe, exuding an aura of nobility. His Highness the Crown Prince. Eunuch Yu was somewhat surprised and quickly stopped to salute. The man in the purple robe was indeed the current Crown Prince, but he was not the son of the Empress, but of the noble consort. I heard that General Fang's cultivation has fully recovered, and I was overjoyed. I specifically came to meet General Fang. The Crown Prince ignored Eunuch Yu and quickly walked to Fang Chen, saluting him. However, his eyes kept wandering on Fang Chen's face, occasionally flashing a trace of malice. He didn't try to hide it, because he knew that Fang Chen was blind and wouldn't see his expression. Crown Prince, we haven't seen each other for a long time. However, I'm tired today and want to go back to the mansion to rest. Let's talk another time. Fang Chen smiled and passed by the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was slightly stunned, turned around to look at Fang Chen's back, his expression gloomy. After a moment, a ruthless look flashed in his eyes, and he whispered, go and find out who Fang Chen has been in contact with these 5 years. I want to know how his cultivation was restored. Yes. Fang Chen stepped out of the palace, where the Queen's procession had been waiting for him for some time. After getting him on the carriage, they headed towards the Fang family residence together. Chen, has His Majesty reinstated your position as Marshal? The Queen asked softly. Fang Chen smiled. His Majesty has ordered me to rest and recuperate at home, saying that I have just regained my cultivation and need to take care of my health. Oh, I see. The Queen seemed a little disappointed. Aunt, has the Imperial Noble Consort Hua been causing you trouble? Fang Chen asked. Although the Crown Prince regards me as his mother now, he was born to Imperial Noble Consort Hua after all. Taking advantage of this relationship, she constantly stirs up trouble in the harem. Although she dares not openly provoke me, she has tested the waters several times, perhaps coveting my position. The Queen replied with a smile. She paused. Why am I telling you all this? You've always despised palace intrigues. Since His Majesty has ordered you to rest at home, you should really take care of your health. Fang Chen smiled but said nothing. He knew the Emperor's temperament all too well. Once, he had been held in the highest esteem, revered as the military god of the Great Xia, his status in the hearts of the people even higher than the Emperor's. This had displeased the Emperor, but Fang Chen had no choice. To win the war against the Qing Song Kingdom and other hostile nations coveting the Great Xia, he needed this reputation to command the army effectively. Now that his reputation had plummeted, would the Emperor let him rise again? The position of the Grand Marshal was unlikely to be his again. Few people probably knew that the numerous slanders and rumors against him over the past 5 years were all orchestrated by the Emperor. Once, when Fang Chen was out of his body, he had personally seen the Emperor instructing the Crown Prince to spread rumors in the streets of the capital, suggesting that the loss in the Battle of the Three Realms was due to Fang Chen's arrogance and disobedience to the palace's orders. Even if I don't command thousands of soldiers, with the abilities of a cultivator, protecting the Great Xia from the likes of the Qing Song Kingdom is a simple task. As for court affairs, I will have nothing to do with them in the future. After advancing to the foundation establishment stage, I will join one of the 3,000 sects in the central Zhou nation. Fang Chen thought to himself. The power of the Purple Thunder Talisman was beginning to show. As a mere Qi refining stage 1 cultivator, the talismans he created could easily kill those with the ability to control Qi. This was something that no warrior could compare with. He was looking forward to seeing what abilities he would have as his cultivation level increased. He also yearned for the carefree days of his senior Yunhe, who could travel thousands of miles with his nascent soul out of his body. Sir, I was wrong. Please show mercy, sir. It's my fault for not watching my child. Please punish me, don't hit my child. Suddenly, a commotion broke out outside, accompanied by pleas for mercy. What's going on outside? The Queen asked with a slight frown. A palace maid lifted the curtain and whispered, a warrior from the Qing Song Kingdom is beating a peddler in the street. Fear was evident in her eyes. A warrior from the Qing Song Kingdom? The Queen looked serious. Aunt, I'll go check it out, Fang Chen said as he got off the carriage. The Queen was slightly surprised, but quickly remembered that Fang Chen had regained his cultivation and sighed in relief. She lifted the curtain to look outside. A peddler was desperately clinging to the leg of a Qing Song warrior, pleading for mercy. Beside the peddler was a 3-year-old child, his cheeks red as if he had been harshly slapped, crying out loud. A crowd had gathered around, glaring at the scene but daring not to intervene. Your child dirted my boots. So, I'll take one of your legs in return. Fair, isn't it? Sir, spare me, sir. If I lose my leg, there will be no one to support the family. My whole family will starve to death. That's not my problem. What harm would it do if a few more of you lowly Xia people die? When the crowd heard the Qing Song warriors' contemptuous words, their anger surged. The guards in the procession clenched their fists, their eyes full of murderous intent. Fong, the military god. The leader of the guards in the procession saw Fong Chen and immediately saluted him. Fong Chen nodded slightly, then walked up to the Qing Song warrior. I remember you, your name is He Longsheng, right? It's Fong, the military god. The crowd's spirits lifted. Although they had criticized Fong Chen more or less over the years, the fact that he appeared here today was definitely not a simple matter. Yo, isn't this our Shao family's son-in-law? Have you finalized your marriage with Our Lady? When are you going to marry into our family? He Longsheng grinned as he saw Fong Chen. Fong Chen ignored him and instead turned to the kneeling peddler. Aren't you going to leave? Thank you, thank you. The peddler thanked him repeatedly, quickly picked up his child, and staggered away. He Longsheng was instantly furious and wanted to stop him, but he felt a chill down his spine as he caught Fong Chen's unwavering gaze, and he ultimately did not act. He glared at Fong Chen. Son-in-law, you're meddling in things too much. You need to remember, you'll be one of us from the Qing Song kingdom soon. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Ha ha ha, you probably don't know yet, but Fong Chen is about to become a son-in-law of the Shao family, and he'll have to call Shao Lang, the commander, daddy. Did you think he could stand up for you? Your Fong, the military god, has been dead for 5 years. Several Qing Song warriors in the crowd began to mock. The surrounding civilians were either confused, angry, or despairing. Just then, Yu Longchang returned with his troops and, seeing Fong Chen, approached him uncertainly. Fong, the military god, what's going on? Has Miss Xiao been sent out of the capital? Fong Chen asked with a faint smile. She has been sent away. Yu Longchang nodded. Miss Xiao had left? Then why hadn't Fong Chen left with her? Wasn't Miss Xiao supposed to arrive in the Great Xia capital today? Why was she leaving on the same day? He Longsheng and others were somewhat puzzled. You keep calling me son-in-law, it's making me a bit embarrassed. But unfortunately, I am not destined to marry into the Shao family, so I am still me, Fong Chen said, looking at He Longsheng with a faint smile. How can it be? He Longsheng was taken aback. Yu Longchang, can I borrow your sword? Fong Chen stretched out his hand. Yu Longchang hesitated for a moment, then subconsciously looked at He Longsheng, the Qing Song warrior. A look of horror flashed in his eyes. Fong, the military god, stop talking. Yes, sir. Yu Longchang immediately took the sword from his waist and handed it to Fong Chen. I once said that when I take up the sword again, the first person I will cut down will be you, He Longsheng. Fong Chen gripped the hilt and slowly drew out the well-crafted long sword. Fong, the military god, was going to cut down a Qing Song warrior. At this moment, the surrounding Great Xia civilians all showed a look of astonishment, looking at Fong Chen incredulously. Even the queen in the carriage widened her eyes slightly. He Longsheng was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. You want to cut me down? The Qing Song kingdom is behind me. Ha ha ha. After a moment of surprise, the other Qing Song warriors also started laughing. It seemed to them that this was the biggest joke they had heard in the past 5 years. Seeing this, He Longsheng couldn't help but stretch out his neck. Come on, Fong, the military god, cut me here. If I make a sound, I will. Swoosh, the sword light flashed. He Longsheng's head was separated from his body, rolling heavily on the ground and stopping several feet away. Blood gushed out from his neck like a fountain. His body fell heavily to the ground, blood pooling around it.